Today we're going to go over our top 7 small-scale suburban homestead animals.
And stick around to the end, we're going to tell you what we think is the best one to raise in a small area. If you're interested in homesteading but don't have a lot of land, then this video is for you. This is a disclaimer that this is just from our experience, so block out the haters.
Yeah, you cover your eyes, you can't see anyone, so of course you're going to block out the haters.
Yeah, I'm blocking out everybody. Haters,
I know.
Lovers.
So first on the list is having honeybees. We like honeybees for a couple different reasons.
The first is they're really quiet, so they're not going to bother any neighbors in your suburban neighborhood.
Yep, yeah, so even on like a small scale it works. And then also with that, you can have a fair amount of beehives in a small scale also.
That's true. You can have lots even if you only have a quarter acre like us.
Yeah, you can. I mean, I've seen people, they stack beehives right beside each other. You really don't need that much space. And then obviously you get honey, which...
Natural sweetener.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. As for cons of raising bees, they can be a bit more on the complicated side to like understand and know how to work with. We're by no means there.
It's our first year.
Yeah, we'll have 1 season under our belt, but it just kind of proves how much we don't know.
Right.
But that's kind of the fun part, though, for us to just like learn.
Right.
Like it's not like a simple thing to like, oh, we mastered.
They're a very intricate insect, so it takes years to learn how they work. And the other con we were thinking about is that it's a little bit expensive of a startup because you have to get the hive itself, all the frames, the tools to work with them, the hats, the smoker.
The actual bees.
The actual bees. So there's kind of a lot that goes into it that might up your costs at the beginning of it. So next up on the list is coturnix quail. And we've raised lots of these little guys, probably over 100 by this point. So we kind of have a little bit of experience with how they work. One of my favorite parts about them is that they're very easy to handle, easy to pick up and move around, and they're fairly docile little creatures. So that's always nice for a starter animal.
Yep.
The other thing is that they're very space efficient, so you can have a lot of them in a small area.
And also butchering for meat is not too hard. You can just bring them into the kitchen sink area and you don't have to make too much of a mess. Probably
a good animal for if you're butchering an animal for the first time. Pretty easy to do. It took him maybe 7 minutes per bird, so.
Not too bad. The downside with quail is that they tend to waste a fair amount of food. Maybe you could come up with some systems that kind of help that.
Or raise them on pasture more.
Yeah, maybe run chickens behind them so the chickens eat the feed that they spill. Like, I don't know, they just kind of, you could kind of try to manage in some better ways.
Optimize it a little bit.
Yeah, but they tend to be more messy. And then also, the roosters would crow at random, like in the middle of the night.
Yeah, when it's dark out. They would be pretty quiet midday, but once it became dusk and at night, they would just be crowing.
So, and it's not a loud crow, but it was just unique.
It's noticeable. It's noticeable.
Yeah, so that's just something to take in consideration. And
maybe it was just our quail, but probably not.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know, maybe ours were a little weird.
This is one of your favorite ones, isn't it?
I do love this animal a lot.
Yeah, so is turkeys. And specifically for the turkey meat, like for a homestead.
Meat turkeys.
Meat turkeys.
Yep. One of my favorite parts about turkeys is how friendly they are. They have an amazing disposition. They're super friendly and they like following you. Like we had a turkey that would follow us around our house all the time.
Yeah.
Super cute, very easy when they're young. Obviously when they get older, they get really plump. But as babies, they're very easy to manage.
And as they're kind of like following you around, they're good at like foraging and like getting some extra food.
When we had them outside, they loved eating through the grass and finding bugs and all that kind of stuff. So,
depending on what you're looking for, obviously your turkey is going to be one of your bigger like poultry carcasses. So depending on maybe the size of your family, like what you're wanting, that could be a positive of having a nice big carcass. But because of that bigger carcass, one of the cons is like having to butcher it and maybe getting like one of the larger size kill cones. And so they're just like
a little bit different than quail.
Exactly.
You can hold one in your hand versus a turkey.
Yeah, from an 8-ounce bird to a 20-pound bird.
Yeah.
Little different for animal.
And the other thing about turkeys is they can be a little bit chatty, especially as they get closer to sexual maturity. They start realizing they have a voice and just chat, cluck, cluck, cluck all day long. So it's not like it's a rooster crowing, but it's kind of more of you're gonna hear it. It's noticeable.
A little more background noise, but the thing with really young turkeys, which we've actually avoided this because we've heard that it's kind of difficult to deal with turkeys in this manner, is the actual brooding of small little baby turkeys.
In the first 4 weeks particularly, I've heard is really difficult.
Yeah. And so what we've ended up doing is actually getting like 4-week-olds and older.
We get them when they're already started, so we don't have to deal with all the loss, but I've heard that when you have them young, they're just very fragile, and they don't really understand how to eat and how to drink, and you have to show them, and they're not as hardy as ducks and chickens as babies.
Exactly, yeah. So next on the list is your typical backyard chickens, which obviously there's a fair amount of people out there who have backyard chickens. And with that being said, it means like the neighbors are actually like getting a little bit more used to it.
More of a common thing.
More of a common thing. So that's kind of a positive to having some nice egg layers.
Right, and going right into that, your neighbors will probably also appreciate if you have lots of eggs you can give them.
Bribe them with some eggs.
That's at least what our neighbors like. So chickens lay lots of eggs, which is really great.
And the other thing with having a flock of some laying hens is you can give them extra yard waste and they'll kind of shred it up for you. They'll give you some really nice manure, and so you've got some good compost and maybe plant a garden with or something like that.
Yeah. So as for some downsides to chickens, they do make quite a bit of noise when they lay eggs. Usually this is only for part of the day, and the rest of the day they're fairly quiet, but it's just something to consider when you're thinking about getting them. And another part to consider is that they're not just the type of animal where you get them to butcher and they're only there from spring to fall. They're a full year-round animal. So you have to be thinking ahead to winterizing and waters that freeze when it's negative temps, and having a coop for them where they can get out of the wind.
Yeah, keeping them warm. And then along with the coop, you might have to put a little bit of money into a layer flock to build a coop, whether you buy a coop, kind of depending on what you want to do. And so just consider that it might take a little money up front to get started with them. Okay, now we're getting to our top 3 favorite here. So number 3 on the list is the Cornish cross chicken.
The meat chicken.
The meat chicken.
Right.
And we really love it because, like a lot of people, from day-old chicks to butchering and getting meat in the freezer is only a couple months, and so very quick turnaround with that.
Right, and you can do that quick turnaround in a small space. You don't have to have fields and acres of land.
Yeah, you can just use your backyard.
A 1/4 acre. One of the things that's not great about Cornish cross is that you can't breed them yourselves because they're so genetically mutated. They're just so big and bulky they can't do their thing that regular animals can do. So you have to buy them from the hatcheries or your local farm store.
And then also, they can be pretty labor intensive. Setting up the brooder to then putting them out in a chicken tractor and then setting up a butchering situation. And then if you do a couple batches a year, I don't know, it might end up being a little bit labor intensive.
It's a process.
But you get hundreds of pounds of chicken, so.
A worth it process.
Yeah.
So our second favorite animal on our list is Muscovy ducks. And they're our favorite because they lay really big eggs, which is pretty fun for baking and cooking and eating. And the other thing we love about them is they are super quiet. They really don't make any noise. They don't quack like regular ducks. They just kind of hiss like geese do, but ours doesn't even do it that often.
They're perfect for a small scale situation.
They were very close to being our number 1. They're a really good poultry to have. They're our number 1 poultry. We'll say that.
It's true. There we go.
We'll say that.
And then they're great foragers too. And so if you're able to have a system, they can be out on pasture. Yeah, and they don't just wander into all your neighbors' yards.
Right.
They will do really well foraging and getting a good amount of their diet.
Right.
From bugs and stuff. Also, they have great personalities.
They do have great personalities. And the other thing that's really good about them, kind of switching topics, is if you're butchering them, they also are a large bird that can make a lot of carcass weight.
Yeah, I think it's like a 6 or 7 pound carcass weight. So
I think it could be even more than that, depending on if you have a male and how old he is.
There we go. Depends when you butcher. But so depending on what you want for carcass weight, it could really work out for you. We were trying to think of cons for the Muscovies, and the only thing we could come up with is like your typical duck.
Or goose.
Yeah, your water fowl. They just make a lot of mess with the water, and so they'll be splashing water, making stuff a bit muddy.
Pooping in it, making it just really dirty.
Yeah, so that's the downside. In my mind, it's not too big of a downside, but that's what we came up with.
So our number 1 top favorite, best of all time Suburban Homestead animal is rabbits.
Woo!
If you couldn't tell, we have lots of them.
Yeah.
Like 15.
We love them.
Yeah, indoor, outdoor, look everywhere. They're in our house. Really easy to have on small acreage.
We really love having rabbits for their wonderful manure for the garden.
And you can sell their babies as part of your farm income.
Very easy to butcher.
You can also raise them on pasture.
With all those things being said, that is why we put rabbits as our #1 favorite animal to raise on our homestead.
Because they're adaptable. They have so many different purposes, plenty more things that you can do with them.
You can have pelts, and there's some different stuff. So that's why we love having rabbits. They're pretty simple also.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Breeding wise, it's not too complicated. So some really sweet things about having rabbits. Just wanted to share with you guys, and hopefully this helped you. Maybe you're just getting into some homesteading, you don't have too much area. Hopefully this helps.
If you have other ideas of what other animals you think is your top suburban homestead animal, let us know in the comments so that we can maybe add it to our list.
So we'll see you guys on the next video. Don't forget to subscribe
and hit the notification bell. My brain is like
it's like computing. Turn left. You're an idiot.
Bees.
Okay.
Bees, the buzz. Typical dandelion.
What?
Try to be real. I want to see. Do your most animated.
Okay. Today.
You don't have to do anything with your hands.
Okay. Animated. We're gonna
go over.
Watch it, and there's more. Wow.
Whoa.
Honey, in sync.
You already know the information, so it's not for you.
What is buzzing around my ear?
So it's not for you. It's buzzing around my ear.
I can't deal with nature. Amazing, wonderful, and sweet. Second on the list.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah. Except for you sting me in the back sometimes.
No, I don't. I'm like a little bumblebee. I'm just fuzzy and I run into you like a dingus.
That's true.
Cram it, Fluffy.
Private? Private Fluffy?
I said cram it, Fluffy.
That's actually funny. That's funny.
You didn't even hear it.
No, I think it's a private Fluffy. Okay.
Do not. That would be funny if we fell backwards. No, stop.
Okay, thank you.
The supreme suburban homestead animal is rabbits. Oh my.
Oh, I got too excited. I'm all tangled up.
I predicted that.